Hi, buddy, and welcome to the Senior AI Podcast for Good. So, we're going to be sharing information about AI and particularly about AI for good. And I want to introduce my longtime co host. We'll start with Ron Horey of FinFit Life, and we'll share Ron's story, and Michael A. Foreman. And Michael is a professional networking trainer, absolutely over the roof, top of the line, credibility, experience, puts on big networking events in Georgia. Greg has been with the Max community, and he and I have been working together for a long time. He is a key in the Great Discovery course platform and a promoter of it and a longtime member of the Great Discovery course platform. I also am a longtime member, and I'm also a promoter of it as well. So that being said, you guys kind of know the drill. Greg, I gave him a brief overview. What is happening, guys, is this. I have been invited to speak to a group of 80 seniors in Benicia, California. And what I was just sharing at the before we started recording was that I attended a 4-day trade show about AI at HumanX. Then I went to a 3-hour seminar on AI, and now I have to do a presentation for just 30 minutes. So I've got to really compress everything. And what do you do when you get an emergency and you have to compress things? Well, this is the book that my son gave me, and it's called War and Peace. And I told him I want to read it. It's on my bucket list, but I'm not going to start reading it until I own it because I'll never finish in time to return it to the library. So what do when you get War and Peace? You get what?
Cliff's Notes.
Cliff's Notes, right? So that's how we save hours and hours of time. So today I'm going to introduce you to Mike's Notes. This is the way that I can get the 30-minute presentation compressed down to 30 minutes from, we'll say, 3 hours. So let me share Mike's notes, and then I'm going to share a couple of videos and share my partners in crime. This is my son, Joe, longtime broadcaster with KCBS Radio in San Francisco. And this is one of my best friends, really. This is not cool, Thomas. They're both 40. Okay. So we do cross age group networking, and these are Mike's notes, strategies, and mini books. And I've just produced a mini book for Ron and for Michael. And Michael tells me up front that he likes the book and wants to share it with his wife because it really tells his story about what he does with networking. Now, I'm focusing on a few things, guys. One, NotebookLM, and LM for me stands for legacy media. That's my background in years and years in traditional media, and Joe as well. But what we're doing, there's four power drivers for this whole program. Number one is the Grow with Google Partner Program for startups. So we're going to be focusing on that. I met with them at HumanX in San Francisco, and it looks like we're in complete alignment with Google for Startups. Next, we have Google for Small Business. That's a separate program altogether for Google. Then I started the Senior AI Forum to be a nonprofit so that I would qualify for Google for Nonprofits $120,000 a year ad grant with Google advertising. And then fourth is Grow with Google Partner Podcasts. And that's what the Senior AI podcast is all about. And then the fifth one is the Legacy Media Program to really recruit local media to tell senior stories. Now, what I did, and this is kind of a cool thing that you can do when you learn about Notebook LM, you can actually just grab this domain name right here, paste it right into Notebook LM, which you can reach right by clicking on this graphic, and it'll bring up your own NotebookLM. Well, when you paste that domain into NotebookLM, it will create a podcast about the AI Super Campus because it's changing so fast. If I create a video about what it's all about, it's going to be outdated tomorrow. So that's why it's a really cool way. So here is the list of Mike's notes on AI for good. I started with this one right here, the product prognosticator. Now, this is the legacy media column that I wrote for Direct Marketing News called the product prognosticator. Well, AI is a product. And so I thought, what a great idea to look at the future of AI with the product prognostication for seniors. In other words, what's coming? What's ahead? How can we future-proof our businesses and our lives? So I did a prognostication. So this is the number one course. I'll show you that we also have the Educators for Good section down here with Ron's mini book and Michael's mini book. But we'll get to those in just a minute. But first, I want to share with you a couple of stories and then get your comments because this is what it's all about is really we have to work together. We want to network together and we want to learn all about AI together and really help each other to learn and share. I've learned so much from Michael and Ron. So let me share this video and then this will give you a little overview about what the prognostication is for two things, guys. It's artificial intelligence, which is already here, and artificial general intelligence, which I think has already arrived, but they're saying it'll arrive in 2026. But Google just did a big announcement that basically it already has arrived. So here's the story. Here's the prognostication about AI and the future of all of us.
All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Did you know that by the year 2030, which, by the way, is exactly when a lot of experts predict artificial general intelligence might actually arrive, 1 in 6 people globally is going to be aged 60 or older? Today, we are unpacking this absolutely incredible, rapidly unfolding journey, the massive transition from today's artificial intelligence to tomorrow's superintelligence. But we aren't just going to talk about code and servers. We're going to look at how this monumental technological shift will fundamentally reshape a deeply human experience, the aging experience, and the senior frontier. If you've ever wondered how these huge leaps in computing power will actually touch our daily lives as we grow older, you are in exactly the right place. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the intelligence evolution, then AI versus AGI. After that, the arrival of superintelligence, followed by the senior frontier, and finally, the impacts on senior living. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the intelligence evolution, or as we like to call it, the stepladder of tomorrow. So we are currently standing right in Era 1, artificial intelligence, good old AI. This is our present day. We use AI to recommend what movies to watch, route our GPS, filter the spam out of our emails. It's incredibly useful, but it's really just the very first rung on the ladder. Right above us is Era 2, artificial general intelligence, or AGI. This is the emerging frontier, the next major milestone the tech world is sprinting toward. And finally, sitting at the absolute top of the whole shebang, Era 3, superintelligence, or ASI. This is that future state where technology just totally transcends human capabilities. To really understand where we're going, we have to understand the steps it takes to get there. Moving right along to Section 2, AI versus AGI, going from narrow to general. Now, AGI isn't just about a computer doing one specific thing really well. It's literally about a machine's ability to understand, learn, and apply knowledge with human-level adaptability across absolutely any domain. It's the difference between a program that can only play chess and a program that can learn to play chess, write a symphony, and then figure out how to navigate a complex legal document, all with the exact same dynamic flexibility that your own brain possesses. Crazy, right? The contrast here is absolutely stark. Our current AI, it's narrow, it's task-specific. If you take an AI built to analyze financial data and ask it to, say, drive a car, it completely fails. But AGI is broad. It possesses human-level reasoning and is fully adaptable. It can generalize its learning from one environment and just seamlessly apply it to a totally different one, exactly like we do. Which brings us to Section 3, the arrival of superintelligence, moving beyond human limits. Okay, so superintelligence is an intellect that vastly outperforms the best human brains in practically every field. And hey, that doesn't just mean complex math or abstract physics. It specifically includes scientific creativity and deep social skills. Superintelligence represents a state where technology doesn't just mimic human cognition, it entirely surpasses the absolute limits of our biological problem-solving abilities. We are talking smarter, more creative, and even more socially adept than the brightest minds in human history. Now let's ground this in reality with Section 4, the senior frontier, meeting the aging population. So what actually happens when this unimaginable, boundless cognitive power intersects with the vulnerability and daily needs of our senior citizens? Like, how will this level of intelligence actually serve people in their twilight years? Well, the answer is pretty profound. Superintelligence is going to transition from this theoretical laboratory concept into a deeply personal, daily companion for the elderly. The ultimate test won't be in writing better code. It'll be in how it universally elevates a senior's dignity. Picture a completely seamless interface, maybe a warm, conversational voice that notices when a senior with early dementia forgets to drink water and gently reminds them with the patience of a trusted friend, while simultaneously adjusting the home's temperature for their physical comfort. It basically becomes the ultimate caretaker. Let's look closer at this in Section 5, Impacts on Senior Living, Redefining the Golden Years. This represents a total paradigm shift in daily care. We're looking at hyper-personalized predictive healthcare and advanced cognitive assistance that steps right in to support fading memory. We see fully automated mobility, giving back the freedom of transportation to folks who maybe can't drive safely anymore. And perhaps most powerfully, eradicated loneliness. Gone, thanks to those highly empathetic, socially skilled ASI companions. The end result is fully restored daily autonomy. Seniors will be able to live independently for much longer, safely supported by this invisible web of superintelligence. To put that into perspective, here's what the ASI's healthcare arc looks like in action. Step 1 is continuous biometric monitoring. It's always checking, always learning your unique baseline. Then, Step 2 is predictive hyper-personalized diagnosis. This is where the system recognizes the faintest little anomalies that a human doctor might easily miss. And finally, Step 3, autonomous preemptive treatment delivery. The system moves totally away from just reacting to proactively treating an issue before a senior even feels sick. It's healthcare that doesn't wait for a crisis to happen, it prevents the crisis entirely. As we build this evolutionary ladder, moving from narrow AI to the vast, almost unbelievable capabilities of superintelligence, it leaves us with one vital, deeply personal reflection. How do you want superintelligence integrated into your own twilight years? Because let's face it, we are all aging. How we choose to design and direct this technology today is exactly what will determine how it serves our most vulnerable selves tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.
All right, guys, let's do a roundtable discussion. Let's start with Ron, who is the legacy veteran, longtime co-host. So, Ron, let's take it to you first, and we'll go to Michael, and we'll wrap up with Greg.
Well, that idea of the super intelligence, it's pretty fascinating, but also a little bit scary too. But it is what it is, right? It's evolving faster and faster. So the question is, how do we deal with it? How do we use it as a force for good? That's my perspective on it.
Well, here we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to cover all of those things that you just mentioned, Ron. Thanks. Michael?
I feel exactly the same way as Ron does. When it showed when your human brain attacks a problem and the difficulties it has when the artificial general intelligence can do the same thing, but in many different rows, and that told me that, just like Ron said, it's here, but it's very scary, right? Because is it and I just heard this on a podcast very recently. I think 60% of the country feels that AI is here, but it's moving too quickly. So how do we get the AGI and internally and understand it, yet letting it not letting it take us over? You know,
Yeah.
it's a very difficult position.
Okay, we've got a solution that we're going to talk about here at the end. But first, we're going to have Greg unmute and give us his comments.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm hoping that AI can take that Cliff Notes version of War and Peace and put it and dumb it down to a one-page synopsis of the Cliff Notes version.
It can.
So if a human being can make Cliff Notes, I think AI can do even better. I think people get all freaked out about AI because they don't understand that it's just an information processing protocols. We've been in the information processing business for centuries, and it's just another iteration or evolution of that ability to take information, to synthesize it, and to organize it for productivity. And so I think it's awesome. People, any tool that has potential or leverage can be misused, and it can be used for great good. So don't let all the bad guys have the AI. Those of us that have good intentions, let's get on top of it and use it for good, and even use it to sort of protect ourselves against things that are possible misuses of the AI, because we can use AI to fight AI, so to speak, right? We can use the good to fight any evil that exists. So I think it's very important that we get involved in AI, and I love the little scenario that you had there about, you produced a very specific example of AI, medical AI to help seniors. That's the kind of thing we need to be doing. Problem solving, finding things that need to be done, using AI to help it get it done more quickly.
What a great lead in to the next section that I want to share, and that is senior solutions for these problems. So now we're over here at the product prognosticator again, all the way down at the bottom. I just added these two videos today about the AI mafia. And that was part of the prognostication that AI told me of the rapid growth of automated, organized attacks on seniors in particular. So I asked Gemini to create a little video open for this first video I'm going to share with you, starting with an introduction of ways that seniors can begin to use it to fight back. So I'd love to get your reaction to this. Let me see if I can make it bigger first because it's pretty powerful.
The super AI mafia is attacking our families, but our stories are fighting back in the legacy media movement.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a fascinating source document today that, honestly, it completely challenges how we view ourselves and this tsunami of technology heading our way. Think about this for a second. Everything around us, every person, every product, every single community, actually exists in two completely different realities. First, you've got the physical truth, right? The flesh and blood human or the tangible items sitting on a shelf. But then there's the story, and that is the perception of that person or product that lives purely in the minds of everyone else. Okay, let's dive into this with a perfect real-world example, straight from our source material. Picture a business owner named Jeff. Now, Jeff was absolutely drowning in debt trying to sell what he called a $20 cleaner. As a physical product, totally fine, but the story attached to it, it just wasn't capturing anyone's attention. It was falling flat. So what did he do? He completely flipped the narrative. He didn't alter a single drop of the chemical in the bottle. He just changed the story on the label to Tile and Grout Restore. And the results of that one simple shift in perception? Absolutely mind-blowing. By taking the reins and controlling that narrative, Jeff turned a crushing $100,000 debt into a staggering $200 million success story. I mean, wow! This is the ultimate proof of concept right here. It proves that actively telling your own story isn't just some clever marketing trick. No, it's an absolutely crucial survival skill. So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover 1. The power of story, 2. The super AI mafia, 3. The 4 pillars of AI, 4. Your billion-dollar AI allies, and finally, 5. The legacy media movement. Let's get right into it. Starting off with section 1, the power of story. So, physical truth and perceived story are inextricably linked. You literally can't separate them. And the overarching danger highlighted in our research here is the danger of silence. Look, if you don't actively craft and tell your own story, Human nature guarantees that other people are going to subconsciously fill in those blanks, and they'll usually do it by projecting their own assumptions onto you. It's really that simple. You're either the active author of your narrative, or you just become a passive character in someone else's.
That brings us to Section 2, the Super AI Mafia.
The landscape right now is shifting dramatically with the impending arrival of artificial general intelligence, or AGI, which is projected to hit around 2026. We are looking at a massive generational shift in power dynamics, and this brilliantly illustrates the dark side of that shift. You see, these incredible AI tools were built pretty much entirely by younger generations and frankly thrust upon the senior citizen population without their input or consent. And now, according to our source, a highly organized element, dubbed the Super AI Mafia, is actively targeting seniors with incredibly sophisticated fraud, scams, and cybercrimes. They are weaponizing this new tech against a demographic that just hasn't been trained to defend against it. But don't worry, because our source material delivers a super powerful countermessage. Hiding is not an option. Commanding the technology is the only way forward. This is a multi-generational mission. For seniors, parents, and grandparents, protecting your family and your peers means confronting this tech head-on. It's about taking the pen back, so to speak, and turning AI from a looming threat into an active, powerful, protective ally. Moving on to Section 3, the 4 pillars of AI. Now, these foundational concepts are actually drawn from recent research and lectures at Oxford University, and they were inspired by successful narrative revitalization efforts in places as diverse as Espoo, Finland, and Lafayette, California. To command the machine, we first have to understand how it actually ticks. So, let's break down these 4 pillars. First up is perception. This is how the AI observes, reads, and interprets vast amounts of data from the world. Second is reasoning. This is how the system analyzes logic, solves complex problems, and basically connects the dots. Third is imagination. Yes, imagination. This is the system's ability to generate new ideas, draft compelling stories, and simulate scenarios. And finally, the 4th pillar is action. This is how the AI actually gets things done and executes tasks. Now, I really want you to focus on that last word, action. This is the critical juncture where human intent absolutely must take the wheel. Think about it. An AI can perceive, reason, and imagine all day long, but without human wisdom and direction, and specifically the hard-earned life wisdom of the senior community, that action is totally directionless. This is exactly where human partners step in and take charge. Which leads perfectly into Section 4, your billion-dollar AI allies. Now, what's really interesting about this part is where the narrative shifts from playing defense to feeling deeply empowered. The source emphasizes a brilliant truth. If you can order a book online, you already possess the technical skill needed to command these systems. Seriously, you don't need to be a coder, you just need to be a director. When you properly direct it, AI is not a threat. It's an incredible force multiplier. Let's break down how these specific engines map to your needs. Gemini and NotebookLM, they're perfect for deep research and organizing complex concepts. Then you have ChatGPT and Claude, which absolutely excel at nuanced writing and crafting narratives that have real emotional resonance. Finally, Copilot and Perplexity are your go-to allies for real-time fact-checking and gathering strategic insights. You literally have billions of dollars of research and development just sitting there waiting for your instructions. And finally, Section 5, the legacy media movement. So, you've got this immense power. Where do we deploy it? Well, this movement's native playing field is the media you grew up with and trust. Newspapers, magazines, radio, local television. This is the media that still carries incredible local weight and authority today. By marrying senior life wisdom with the sheer speed of AI allies, you can become an unstoppable force through 3 distinct channels. First up, letters to the editor. These are rapid-fire responses to alert the public to AI crimes or local issues. Second, opinion stories or op-eds. These are your longer thought leadership pieces that share deep perspectives on community restoration. And third, paid advertorials. These are strategic, paid placements that let you bypass the traditional gatekeepers entirely, guaranteeing your story gets the instant exposure that legacy media provides.
So the crucial point here is how incredibly fast and accessible this whole process is. Step 1, you choose a critical community topic. Step 2, you open one of your AI allies, like ChatGPT, and you instruct it with your unique, lived perspective. Step 3, you literally sit back and watch it draft a powerful, polished letter to the editor in under 15 minutes. It is actually that simple. You provide the soul and the intent, and the machine provides the speed and the structure.
This brings us to a really beautiful rallying manifesto derived straight from our source. Senior wisdom plus AI power plus legacy media creates an unstoppable force for community restoration. I mean, I love that. This isn't just about fighting off scams, it's about reclaiming a powerful voice in society. It's an alliance between the world's most advanced technology and the world's most experienced citizens. What a combination.
So we leave you with this final vital question. How will you write your own story? The technology is here, the playing field is set, and the power dynamic? Well, that is yours to shift. Don't let the super AI mafia, or anyone else for that matter, dictate your future or fill in the blanks of your narrative. Take the wheel, command your AI allies, and start writing your next chapter today. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.
All right, Ron.
Yes, I want to share a quick story. I got this email and it said it was from Medicare and say, okay, here's Medicare. Click here to find more information. And then I paused and I said, okay, well, let me go to the Medicare site because when you talk about, the super AI mafia, there's no dividing line between what seems to be real and what can be possibly AI detected, right? And so I went to the web. So I'm being much more cautious in terms of, so I looked at, who's the email from. It says Medicare.gov, but that doesn't mean anything. It could have been spoofed or whatever.
Right.
So I think educating people to be cautious, and this super AI mafia is a real thing. So when you look at super intelligence, they're probably jumping up and down. Oh my gosh, look at how many billions and billions of dollars we can scam this whole, worldwide population. And, I don't want to go over the top, but it's a very real daily
You're
concern to
not
be
going over
cautious.
the top. It's reality, unfortunately.
But I think the education part, making it a step-by-step process, small bites at a time, especially what you're doing, Mike, doing presentations to, specifically the senior population. But then there's the general population. But I think, when they said, what, 1 in 6 people are going to be over 60 years old, that's millions, hundreds of millions of people. And so there are a lot of issues and concerns that can be addressed with that senior population. I'm a baby boomer myself, that we can help alleviate, their fears through education and through empowerment of how to use AI for good.
All right. Thank you. Michael?
You know, going along the spam or spoof thing, or the trail, um, because the banks, when you get a call, a cell phone, a text that you just are overcharged, or did you make this big charge, or anything like that, I stopped answering all of them.
Hmm.
If it was real, then I will call the bank and I'll say, did you send this message? And 99.9% of the time, they didn't.
Right.
So I really have to be careful. But I liked what she said. I'm using she because it's a female voice. Um, you make your own destiny. You have to be cognizant of everything that happens. And the only way to combat all of this is to education and say, okay, if it's your bank, you have to do this. If it's a letter you have to do this, because they scam you on every level of, you get every piece of mail, every text, everything.
And
So
multiple levels.
at multiple levels. So the only way to go against that is to combat that with how you stop everything, how you control it. And you are, but it's up to you on how well you're educated.
Speaking of education, Greg, you have a PhD, so let's hear from you.
When I was in graduate school, they said that PhD actually means pilot higher and deeper. So be careful what you ask for. You know what we all have senior stories. We all have seniors in our lives that come to us, right? And say, I got such and such a message. My wife will come to me 3 or 4 times a week with some text message and say, what do you think about this? Did we really get a traffic ticket in Chicago? Or
Right.
whatever. And look, you can take AI and you can say, what are the things that senior citizens are most concerned about? And get a list of 10 items. And then you can say, what are the ways that we can take one of these items and make it seem credible or plausible to, you can use AI to actually craft the message that then deceives your innocent senior citizen. And that's what's happening. The AI is basically identifying all of the weak points of the human psyche for our seniors. And so I'd say the first thing, when they come to me, exactly what Michael said, 99.9% chance that it is fraudulent. If it makes you scared, if it makes you feel like you need to take action immediately, relax, right? Take it to somebody, don't worry about it. But yeah, you're right. You need to find out what are the legitimate ways that the IRS would communicate with me. They're not going to send you a text message, you know, and that type of thing. People have to get educated. Totally.
All right, very good. Thank you, guys. So here's what I'd like to try and do. I do have one more video, but I'd like to start going to the mini books that I've already produced, one with Ron and one with Michael, and then we'll produce one with Greg. But this is kind of a new form of networking because this is a way to share what Ron does, share what Michael does, and then also share what Greg does in all of the engines of Google and in legacy media. That's what we're trying to do is get all of the power all lined up together. So let me share Ron's story, and then we'll go down here to my recommended educators. This is one of my recommended educators for good is Ron Horey. So we're going to share Ron's story and Greg talking about Mike's notes. You said, Mike, if you could get it down to one page, well, a one-page summary of Ron and his story. And this is one of the things that Mike's notes in many books is all about is to boil it down to one page. But then we also want to boil it down with a video. So this is the video about Ron's story.
Someone asks you about your workout routine and you just kind of shrug and say, hey, I'm just too busy with the kids. I really don't have the time. We've all been there, right? But what if they asked, what if you actually got paid to go walking for just 15 minutes a day? I bet suddenly you're paying attention. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking an absolutely incredible intersection between your health, your wealth, and artificial intelligence. We're going to be drawing on some really eye-opening insights from a recent session between Hughes Hayes, a veteran broadcast journalist, and Ron Horey, who is a highly trusted financial educator. Together, they explore this massive, growing movement designed to help us master both our physical and financial futures, especially as we start looking toward retirement. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. The health and wealth connection. 2. Gamifying fitness for rewards. 3. Solving the retirement crisis. 4. Serving the sandwich generation. And finally, 5. Empowering seniors with AI. All right, diving right into section 1, the health and wealth connection. You see this all the time in our modern society, this crazy dichotomy. On one hand, you've got wealth without health. You know, the person who completely sacrificed their body, working day and night, burning the candle at both ends just to build a successful business. And then on the flip side, you have health without wealth. That's the person who is totally buff, hitting the gym every single day, but they're completely broke without 2 nickels to rub together. And let's be honest, neither of those extremes is really the goal here. The president of FinFit Life actually hit the nail on the head with this. He says, if you have your health, then no wealth, you don't have any fun. It's kind of funny, but it's just that simple. You need the financial resources to actually go out and enjoy the vitality and energy you've worked so hard to build up. Moving right along to section 2, gamifying fitness for rewards. Now, this is where things get super innovative. FinFit Life literally turns your fitness into a rewarding game. We're talking about scoring $10 Starbucks gift cards just for taking a daily 15-minute walk. They gamify your gym attendance, they reward you for actually getting your regular medical checkups, and they even provide access to cutting-edge multi-cancer early detection tests. It's all about making proactive wellness fun and, highly rewarding. And look, we desperately need this proactive approach right now because sitting is the new smoking isn't just a catchy phrase. When you combine the surge in super-processed foods that are driving up diabetes and obesity with this really alarming data showing that Gen Z is actually taking up smoking again, well, we are facing a full-blown crisis. We literally have to get up and we have to get moving. Okay, let's pivot to Section 3, solving the retirement crisis. 50%. Just let that sink in for a second. A staggering 50% of Americans currently have absolutely zero retirement savings. An entire half of the country is completely unprepared for the future. No safety net, nothing. And there is a really stark contrast in how we prepare for that future. You might have seen that big 60 Minutes expose on the 401k trap. Basically, all these hidden fees just eating away at your savings, leaving your money totally at the mercy of unpredictable stock market crashes. The alternative? Financial vehicles that are built on basic education, offering decent interest rates with zero stock market risk. You simply don't have to lose sleep worrying about a market crash taking your hard-earned future down with it. Which brings us to Section 4, serving the sandwich generation. So who are these combined solutions actually built for? They're built for everyday middle America, and specifically what's known as the sandwich generation. These are folks caught right in the middle. They're simultaneously trying to care for their elderly parents, either at home or in a facility, while also raising young kids, or maybe supporting Gen Z young adults who are struggling to launch in a really tough labor market. I mean, think about it. It's an impossible daily balancing act. Imagine your attention being dragged in every possible direction. 30% goes to your elderly parents, 30% to the young kids, another 30% to Gen Z adults still living at home, leaving a measly 10% for the dog, or maybe, just maybe, yourself. This right here is exactly why a stress-reducing solution that covers both health and wealth under one roof is so incredibly urgent right now. Finally, Section 5, empowering seniors with AI. This is where the tech gets really cool and surprisingly accessible. Using a tool like NotebookLM, you just input your notes or your transcript, and Google's AI instantly generates these incredibly realistic co-host voices to discuss your material. For seniors who might be a bit camera shy but have a massive wealth of life experience to share, this allows them to create powerful audio testimonials without ever having to record their own voice. It's a real game changer and a beautiful example of using AI for good. But hey, with technology moving at warp speed, credibility is literally everything. You need real trust. And that's exactly why voices like Hughes Hayes, a veteran NBC broadcast journalist who's interviewed icons like Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins, and Ron Horey, a trusted, boots-on-the-ground financial educator, are so vital. We absolutely need real humans verifying the information that AI helps to present. So if taking control of your health and wealth, or setting up a future-proof income in retirement sounds like exactly what you need right now, Ron Horey is an excellent educator to connect with. You can reach out to him via email at ronhorey@gmail.com. That's RONHORI@gmail.com. Or just call him directly on his cell at 408-857-1145. All of these choices, they build into what we call the longevity journey. Today, it starts with making those active health and zero-risk financial choices. In the near future, you're gamifying your habits and building robust retirement funds. And why does this matter? Well, because MIT longevity projections actually suggest that living to be a century old could become a very real reality for a lot of us. So, based on that MIT research, I want to leave you with one massive question you really have to ask yourself. If you live to be 100 years old, what will your health and wealth actually look like? Are you going to be buff but broke, wealthy but bedridden, or will you have the balance to actually enjoy the whole ride? The choices you make today are going to answer that. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and we will see you next time.
All right, this time I'm going to go to Michael to comment on Ron's story.
I'll tell you, it's funny because I know you, I know Ron, and it's a female voice, and it's something completely different than everything that I'm used to. So that being said, and knowing Ron's story and what he does, I think it depicted exactly what he does, and it tells the person, what do you want to do? Do you want to be that fit person, or do you want to be that wealthy person, and or do you want to be a combination of both? And by the end of it, you're like, I don't want to be that wealthy. I don't want to be that sickly. I want healthy, wealthy, and wise. I want everything. And I thought it was a very good thing to bring it together.
Let me comment on that real quickly. One of the things that one of my mentors Bob Proctor taught me is the only thing you need to be a great testimonial for somebody is somebody talking about you who is not you. So that's one of the cool things about these testimonial podcasts is that you have somebody talking about Ron Horey and FinFit Life who is not Ron Horey and FinFit Life. So that makes it actually more powerful, I think. So let's go to Greg for his thoughts on Ron's presentation.
Michael hit it on the head. I mean, it's like asking, do you want your left leg or your right leg or both legs?
Right.
That's a
Just
good.
one, just one leg, and you're either going to topple over or you just gonna be hopping around like an idiot. So you do need wealth, you do need health, and it's troubling to me that some young people, that some of the habits like smoking are trending in the wrong direction. And so you would think with all of the information that's available to us now, that everything, all positive indicators would be moving in the right direction, right? But they're not. And so I think what Ron does is extremely important, especially for our young people.
Thank you. Ron, if you want to give a quick comment, but we're time is tight, so let's try and get to Michael's if that's okay. But while I'm queuing it up, if you want to say anything.
Well, just a big thank you very much, Mike, for creating that outstanding video. So I
Was it
appreciate your hard work.
wasn't that cool? What I really liked about it was how fast we did it. We did it in a group meeting and we did it. We'll demonstrate how quickly it was done. And now we'll go to Michael, Networking Unleashed.
Absolutely incredible conversation with Michael Foreman. Now, Michael is an executive business coach, and the guy definitely knows a thing or two about getting a message across. I mean, he's done over 125 podcast appearances and built 8 digital courses. He is an absolute master at taking a simple, everyday interaction, like a standard handshake, and turning it into a lifelong, highly profitable relationship. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the face-to-face networking problem. Then, adopting a servant's heart. After that, mastering the physical connection, the FORM conversation framework, some lessons from the flyboy, and finally, networking in the AI era. Let's get to it.
Part 1. The face-to-face networking problem.
So, the crucial point here is a pretty staggering number, 50%. According to Foreman, most people go out networking and literally leave half their money right there on the table. Crazy, right? Well, think about it. You might know exactly what you sell, and you might have your entire sales cycle memorized top to bottom, but the system completely breaks down when it comes to actually looking another human being in the eye and talking face to face. A lot of really smart professionals simply lack the tactical communication skills to bridge that gap between knowing their product and actually connecting with a buyer. And you know what? It usually stems from one massive deal-killing trap. Foreman puts it perfectly. The first thing that everybody wants to do is start to blab what they do and how they do it. That's completely the wrong thing to do. It's just human nature, isn't it? We want to jump right in and say, hey, I'm great, my product is fantastic, you need to buy from me. But Foreman emphasizes that doing this actually repels people. Standard networking fails because it's totally self-centered, instead of focusing on the other person's actual problems.
Which brings us to part 2, adopting a servant's heart. To fix this broken approach, we really need a profound philosophical shift. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between the two mindsets. On one side, you have the standard me-first networker. They walk into a room looking only to receive. They blab about themselves, basically just hunting for a quick transactional sale. But on the flip side, the servant's heart networker enters the room looking to give. Instead of talking, they listen. They listen to the other person's problems. They don't just shove a quick fix at them. They actually pause, repeat back what they've heard to make sure they get it, and offer to walk with that person on their journey. It's a fundamental shift from taking to giving.
When you operate with a servant's heart, your ultimate goal is incredibly simple. You just want to ask, how can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for you? Now, picture this. If you do your job right, the other person will look at you and realize, wow, I don't even know what this person does for a living yet, and they're already trying to make me successful. That right there, that is the moment you've won. You've created a genuine, rock-solid connection based on value before you ever pitched a single thing.
Part 3. Mastering the physical connection.
Because look, having a servant's heart means absolutely nothing if your body language is sending out all the wrong signals. Let's start with the very first
Physical touch. The handshake. Foreman points out a massive mistake here. What he calls the dead fish handshake. Oh, you know the one. It's where they just kind of grip the front part of your fingers. It's weak, it lacks confidence, and honestly, it feels a little creepy. Contrast that with the American handshake. You get right in there, web to web. Firm grip. It's not just physical touch. It's an actual transfer of energy. That proper, firm handshake is step one in creating a real bond with someone.
But it doesn't stop at the handshake. There are real physical mechanics of respect you have to master. You need to maintain strong eye contact, you've got to wear a genuine smile, but the absolute most critical point here? Giving them your undivided attention. Foreman notes that in a crowded room, there could literally be 100 people standing behind the person you're talking to. People you really want to meet. Do not look over their shoulder. Disregarding the person right in front of you is a fatal error. You must finish that conversation respectfully and make them feel like the absolute most important part of your day before gracefully moving on.
All right, part 4, the FORM conversation framework.
So you've got the right mindset, your body language is completely dialed in, but what you actually say. Well, that brings us to a highly practical tool Foreman uses to get absolutely anyone to open up. FORM is an incredibly simple yet crazy powerful acronym. Step 1 is family. Step 2 is occupation. Step 3 is recreation. And this one is an absolute goldmine, by the way. Foreman talks about how easily you can connect just by asking about a kid or grandkid playing youth baseball or softball. And finally, step 4 is message. By moving chronologically through family, occupation, and recreation, you're gently lowering their guard, which completely opens the door for a deeper, much more receptive business message later on.
Why does this framework work so flawlessly every single time? Because of one absolute truth. People love to talk about themselves. I mean, it's just a fundamental law of human nature. By using the FORM framework, you are basically giving them the runway to do exactly what they love doing. You just let them talk and talk and talk until you understand their world so perfectly that you can finally step in and ask how you can help their business succeed. Part 5, lessons from the flyboy. Now, this level of interpersonal mastery doesn't just happen overnight. Actually, Foreman earned the nickname Flyboy decades ago from a friend, which was a nod to his time in the Air Force. But just look at his career trajectory. In the military, he was promoted really quickly, which meant he had to learn how to respectfully give orders to subordinates who were older than him, a super delicate situation where the wrong tone could instantly cause resentment. He then took those exact skills into brick-and-mortar businesses, managing employees and vendors at pizzerias, even a Ben & Jerry's. From there, he jumped into the corporate world, handling mortgages and working at a Georgia law firm, before finally becoming an executive coach.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because across all those vastly different environments, from military personnel to ice cream shop employees all the way to high-powered corporate lawyers, Foreman realized the core challenge was exactly the same. He was mastering universal communication. He had to learn how to take the exact same core message and deliver it in completely different ways depending entirely on who was standing in front of him. That ability to tailor your message and circumvent differences, that is the true secret to elite networking.
And finally, part 6, networking in the AI era. So you might be wondering, why does any of this analog, face-to-face stuff even matter today when we literally have the entire digital world at our fingertips? Well, it matters because we are officially entering what Foreman calls the era of touch. It's kind of funny, but it's totally true. You almost have to go in and pinch your banker today just to make sure he's an actual real-life human being. As AI bots multiply and our digital interactions get more and more synthetic, the pendulum is swinging way back. Having that physical, face-to-face confirmation of who you're actually doing business with is becoming an absolute necessity.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Foreman uses this profound metaphor to describe our immediate future. He says it's going to be an ocean of data out there, but only a very small group of islands that are of safety. AI is an amazing tool for sure, but there are going to be so many ways for things to go wrong. In this massive, turbulent ocean of synthetic data and AI bots, your trusted, in-person network, the actual people you have looked in the eye and shaken hands with, those are your only true safe havens.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to really ponder. In an ever-expanding ocean of AI data, are you actively building your own safe haven through face-to-face networking for good? Remember that servant's heart. Put the focus completely on the other person, master that firm American handshake, and start giving way before you ever ask to receive. The human connections you build today, using these structured, deeply personal methods, they might just be the absolute most valuable asset you have tomorrow. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep learning.
Well, I love the education part about, how do you actually create the beginning of a relationship, right? It's not just transactional. You want to ideally have it, if you're helping to serve somebody solve their problems, you want to have a lifetime client that will not only will you serve them, but they're going to be so delighted that they'd be happy to refer you. And I think that key about having the touch is so important these days because like you're saying, hey, you have if you go to the bank, pinch the banker to see if he's really real. What I love, Mike, about your mini books, it's very succinct, very fast paced, gets your attention, presents the message very clearly in a step-by-step process. So kudos to you. And again, many thanks for creating these mini books for Michael and myself, and then also for Greg in the future.
Yeah, thank
Ab-
you.
ab-
Now we go to Greg for his comments, and then we're gonna really construct the data points of Greg's stories so that we can make sure that the AI bots get it right and serve as a really powerful third-party testimonial. But Greg, first let's get your comments on Michael's presentation or video slide deck, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was awesome. Michael, now that we know all about you, I'd like to talk about myself. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I thought that was such a great point that people do want to talk about themselves, but there is this reciprocity that I think people just want to be genuine. They're happy to learn about you, but they don't want it to be superficial, right? They want a reciprocal sharing, and I think the form model is brilliant because sometimes we know I need to ask this person about themselves, but then our mind gets stuck. Like, how do I ask? What question do I ask? And it gets you off the ball. It gives you four different areas that you can explore. And I thought it was brilliant. I love the way of bringing that into networking. I think that's exactly the thing that's missing from a lot of networking. You have all these pitch fests going on out there, and what people are really looking for is authenticity.
All right, very good. So now let's go ahead because we're kind of running short on time. So let me just kind of set the rules of wrapping up this meeting that I get the time, guys. So if anybody has to go, Greg and I will be recording his podcast. You can stay and learn about Greg right now, or if you do have to leave, please feel free to just quietly exit stage left because I will, after I record the data with Greg, I will then also share about the media movement and the legacy media movement so that I have that on this podcast. So that's kind of what I'm doing. This is a podcast recording session. So here we go. Okay, so now let's construct Greg's co-host testimonial. So what has to happen, Greg, so that they talk about both of us? Is I put in the data points about me, who I am specifically, and I got to have all the nuts and bolts in there for them to create the best podcast that will be very good for storytelling and serve as a testimony. I'm fascinated about learning the nuts and bolts of your story just from what little I know about it, but I want to get it directly from the source. So here we go. Okay, first of all, my name is Mike Hughes Hayes, and I am the longtime podcaster, creator, producer of the Senior AI podcast. And my background is longtime interviewer with NBC TV and radio networks in New York, where I interviewed many household names, went into the TV infomercial industry with narrative storytelling about products and services and how they work and how you can generate revenue with storytelling in especially legacy media. So I was known in the direct response TV industry as the product prognosticator to help people figure out if their product is going to be successful and how to make it successful with narrative storytelling. So we're about to do some deep research now directly with the source of the material today, and that is my longtime friend, Dr. Greg Sanders, who is a professor of sociology and also an ordained minister. So Greg comes to the table with a lot of great credibility from his background, but personally, I've known Greg for years, and he and I have networked together for a long, long time in many different capacities and in many different ways. So, Greg, that being said, what I'd like to do is ask you to introduce yourself as well, anything that I missed, and talk a little bit about the product. Then we're going to have you wrap up by telling us how people can get a hold of you to learn more. So, that being said, Dr. Greg Sanders.
Well, thank you, Mike. So, listen, I'm honored. I love what you're doing, bringing value to the world by focusing on other people, and especially those that have lived a productive life. Focusing on seniors is brilliant. I guess I qualify. I'm 67. My dad is 97, still
Yeah.
kicking, played the clarinet in the Korean War. And, when you see people that do live into their 90s and beyond, you realize that if you're lucky, sometimes even though we're old, we've got many more years potentially of productive living and giving to the world. So that's exciting. That's not promised. So we make every day count, but sometimes I feel like people retire and they feel like, well, now it's time just to go play pickleball and, do nothing that benefits the communities. I do like some of those avocations and doing things, but I'm very interested in building communities, okay? And the I can talk about the product that I'm currently promoting because I think it gives a lot of value to people, but really what I'm interested in doing is using technology to bring people together and to maximize life in communities. I feel like technology so often pulls people apart.
You've got a program about mortgage reduction. And that's as I understand it, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'd like you to really explain that and how powerfully, exponentially it allows you to save money on your mortgage because, interest rates and the way the system pulls money out of us. Oh, you have some ways that you've learned that really I think even uses an algorithm, talking about AI to help you to save money systematically.
Okay. It's no surprise that we are a debt saturated society. So many people are in debt and they don't really understand the nature of debt. They think they do, but they don't. For instance, I will ask people, hey, do you have debts? Would you like to have your debts eliminated? Would you like to be out of debt? And a very typical comment I get is, I don't have any debts. I just have a mortgage. Well, a mortgage is the largest debt that most people have. And here's the other thing that people don't understand about a mortgage. The APR is not the critical interest rate that determines how much you're paying on a monthly basis. I'll ask people, do you know the difference between an APR interest rate on your mortgage and a TIP? And they say, TIP, what's that? Now, if you look at your mortgage papers, every mortgage closing document has total interest percentage, which is how much total interest are you going to pay over the lifetime of this loan paying minimum payments, right? That's really what I would call the operative interest rate because that gets divided down into the month. But it's not divided equally into 360 months. If you've got a 30-year mortgage, it's front loaded. You take a typical 6% mortgage interest rate, people can pay over 80% this month of interest to the bank out of their payment. So I have a product that basically uses factorial math. It's a software product. You put in your all of your debts, not just your mortgage, because there are other amortized debts that front load the interest. So your RV loan, your auto loans, your vehicle loans, your student loans are also amortized loans. Obviously, your home mortgage is an amortized loan. Amortized loans, the interest rates don't work the same way that they do on a credit card or an open-ended loan. There are a lot of these things people don't understand. So my platform basically reverse engineers the mathematics that banks are using to extract the greatest amount of interest out of us, and then it puts the power back into the hands of the people. It's like a GPS style dashboard. If you want to travel across the country, everybody uses GPS now. You don't use a paper map, right? You see estimated time of arrival. It shows you exactly the route to take, what lane to get in, how far until your turn off, all that kind of stuff. That's what our product does. It gives the estimated time when people will be totally debt free based on their available monthly cash flow. It produces a specific action plan to get there, and it shows them how much money they'll save overall And then every time it recommends they make an extra payment, it shows them how much interest they're going to cancel with each of those payments in a granular way. It's just amazing. And so that's kind of the net show. I have a company called Debt Free America, and it's all about helping people get out of debt and realizing they can build wealth faster if debt management and debt elimination is part of their strategy.
Greg, you have done something very, very important. When people don't understand something that's new to them, they need an analogy or a metaphor so that they can get it in their mind of what you're talking about. Your metaphor analogy of using GPS to take a trip. Yeah, you're right. We don't have triptychs anymore. Remember those from AAA? But your story about GPS, we've all done that. And we know we need to know where to turn and we want to know what our destination is. So that really made it so crystal clear to me to really know where you're going, know you have the capability of getting there and taking that journey to arrive at the destination where you can really yeehaw, really celebrate. I'm sure that that is a great, great, great feeling. How does somebody get a hold of you, Dr. Greg Sanders, to learn more if they're interested?
Thank you for asking. Doctor, that's drgregsanders.com, takes you to my Maxer app. And I would like to add a quick thing for Michael's benefit since he does a lot of networking. All four of us do a lot of networking. My mission is to make sure that people know nationwide that they don't have to be in debt until they're 95, right? Because that's the bank's plan for them, is to have a lifetime customer and to always keep them in debt with something. In that regard, I'm building a nationwide distribution network with my Maxer app technology. It could be an app that's used for networking. I say it's an app that brings people together. There's a directory widget that fits into it. There's an event registration system that fits into it. It's just being released. If you or anybody's interested in being a beta tester, I have special opportunities and prices, including a lifetime offer for people that want to beta test the system. But if you're going to get the message about debt elimination or any message that can help people out, you have to somehow penetrate communities. You have to give people the opportunity to make that message flow more widely to a larger number of people. So that's what I'm doing on the technology side with my company, Max Tech Inspire, and I'm putting that together with Debt Free America. But any message, Ron's message, Michael's message, your message, Mike, with about all the AI stuff, you need a distribution network to get that message out there. But drgregsanders.com will put you in touch with me, schedule time to talk. Would love to network with anybody that wants to bring value to people.
All right. Well, since we're here, I'm going to let that be the end of it, but I'm also going to do a little experiment and see what we get by letting Ron and Michael add comments and see if that's something we want to include in the mini book. So, Ron, why don't you lead us off?
I think what Greg said, as far as educating people, on how much are they paying to the bank for their mortgage or their credit cards, auto loans and so on. And that was an eye opener for me too, understanding, okay, there's a difference between API and TPI. I think that's what you said, Greg. So I think it's
TIP.
another example of educating people. There's a phrase that people don't know what they don't know. And oftentimes what they think they know is wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
think as far as the education aspect of what Greg is doing, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, like we had talked about earlier, when people don't have the right information, they kind of fill it in themselves. And often it's in any story about a person or a product, and often, like you said, Ron, it's just not correct. So, Michael, your comments.
It's first of all, that's a wealth of knowledge. And to the layman, to the person who doesn't understand the mortgage process, I was in mortgages for about 12 years. So I fully understand what you're saying. And
Mm-hmm.
just the idea of of the banks front loading the interest, it really doesn't come to you start paying off 50/50 to about 17 years in, right? So you have to just when you try to tell them, look, it doesn't matter what percentage you're paying because you're not going to really realize it until year 15, year 20, but you're not going to be in the mortgage for that long. You're going to change the mortgage. So that's one thing that you have to educate the people on is that, look, I happen to be paying a very low interest rate because I'm a veteran. I took a veteran's mortgage, but we'll use your thing of 6%. If they could pay 6%, they say, well, okay, this is 7%, and I don't know what to do. You know, take the 7% and then use your program, and you can break it down even further. It's really education. Education is really it. Explain it to them. And if you explain it all out on paper, look, black and white, this is what you're paying, and this is how I can help you. Anybody with common sense would look at it and say, oh, yeah, no, that's right. That's right.
This is Mike Hughes Hayes saying if you want a GPS to know where you're going to get to the destination with your mortgage, this could be a great program for you. So thanks for joining us. Now stay tuned, everybody. So, because I want to share one more video. But now for this podcast, if you guys have to go, I understand, but I want to share something very powerful about the legacy media movement to wrap this up. So I'm going to share one more time for another video. So we're going to go back to the prognostication about the future and the senior solution of what we can do as seniors with the legacy media movement. So let me share this video because this is a real nuts and bolts. Anybody can do this. This is a senior solution. And so let me share it with this little fun open, I think, too.
The super AI mafia is attacking our families, but our stories are fighting back in the legacy media movement.
Have you ever stopped and wondered, how on earth can we protect seniors from the super AI mafia? I know it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but trust me, it's a very real issue happening right this second. Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're handing you a literal playbook to fight back against this rapidly growing threat of AI scams targeting older adults. And the best part, we aren't going to do it with complex code or expensive software. Nope, we're leveraging a tool that's been around for centuries. Today, we're diving deep into the Legacy Media Outreach Guide for Senior AI Safety. This whole concept is drawn directly from the legacy media movement, created by Mike Hughes Hayes. So for all you focused learners out there, our goal today is simple. We're going to completely demystify the process of media pitching. We want to empower you, whether you're a community leader, a senior, or a younger advocate, to use legacy media as your megaphone. Because by doing so, you can generate the widespread awareness we desperately need to protect older adults right in your own community. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the AI threat to seniors. Second, why legacy media matters. Third, crafting the perfect pitch. Fourth, targeting the right outlets. And finally, practical steps for action. All right, starting right off of Section 1, the AI threat to seniors and the need for public education. So what are we actually up against here? The core threats we're dealing with are incredibly realistic AI scams, impersonation, and misinformation that specifically target older adults. Bad actors are weaponizing realistic AI at an absolutely alarming rate. It's moving so fast, which is why there's this critical, urgent need for public awareness. We absolutely have to shield senior citizens from this super AI mafia. And hands down, the most effective way to do that right now is through widespread education. We've got to help them recognize these threats before it's too late. Moving right along to Section 2, why legacy media matters and the power of the printing press. Now, we really have two primary outreach tools in this movement, and it's absolutely vital to understand the difference between them before you start typing anything. First up is the letter to the editor, or what we call an LTE. This is your quick, direct response tool. It's designed to be short, timely, and get straight to the point about the need for AI safety. On the flip side, we have the op-ed commentary. This is your longer, much more detailed guest essay. The op-ed is where you really want to lean in and emphasize your personal experience with senior education and community outreach. But both are essential tools for asking newspapers to step up and carry stories that protect senior citizens. Which brings us to Section 3, crafting the perfect pitch and what editors actually want. Understanding the person on the receiving end of your email, the editor, is honestly half the battle. They want clear, timely, and civil submissions. They definitely do not want provocative or inflammatory language. Now, what's really interesting here is this verified sample opening. Listen to this. Older adults are being targeted by increasingly realistic AI scams, and newspapers should do more to educate the public. What makes this so effective is how perfectly it frames the issue. It doesn't scream at the reader. It doesn't rely on sensationalism. Instead, it gives them a clear, reader-friendly hook. It perfectly aligns with current reporting on AI threats and just clearly states the immediate need for awareness. This is exactly the kind of level-headed phrasing that grabs a busy editor's attention. So, the crucial point is, a great hook just isn't enough if you get disqualified on a technicality. Editors have incredibly strict formatting rules. Step 1, submit your piece directly in the body of your email. Seriously, never send it as an attachment. For security reasons, editors usually won't even open them. Step 2, include your full contact info. We're talking full name, mailing address, email, and phone number. These outlets have to verify exactly who you are before they publish you. And Step 3, keep it short. For a letter to the editor, you generally need to keep your word count strictly between 150 to 250 words, unless their specific guidelines say otherwise. And hey, your pitch actually starts the very second it hits their inbox. That means your subject line is incredibly important. Use a plain, totally direct subject line. Something like, letter to the editor, AI safety for older adults. Or maybe opinion, protect seniors from AI scams. Look, editors are fielding literally hundreds of emails every single day. A clear, basic subject line makes it so much easier for them to quickly route your message to the right desk. This isn't the time to be clever or cryptic, just be clear. All right, on to section 4, targeting the right outlets and where to hit send. So you've got to be strategic about where you submit your writing. It's kind of like climbing a ladder. You always want to start with local papers first. Think your city or county weekly and daily papers. Why? Because the data actually shows that local newspapers have a way better chance of publishing your letter than the massive national outlets. Once you hit that local level, then you scale your efforts up to regional dailies, move on to statewide opinion pages, and finally, you target 1 or 2 major national outlets. Let's take a look at some of those major national and statewide outlets first. I highly recommend pausing and jotting down some notes from this verified cheat sheet matrix. If you're targeting the New York Times, use letters at nytimes.com for your LTEs. For the Washington Post, it's letters at washpost.com. USA Today, for example, uses a specific email route, the forum at usatoday.com, specifically for op-eds and columns. Over at the LA Times, they use oped at latimes.com. Meanwhile, the SF Chronicle uses a specific online opinion submission page for both. Having the exact correct email address is huge. It prevents your hard work from just disappearing into the digital void. But remember our core strategy. We focus locally and regionally first. Here's a verified starter list that focuses heavily on California and regional outlets, which our source material points out are excellent for reaching policymakers and a broad older adult audience. In the Bay Area, you have the Mercury News taking op-eds at opinions@mercurynews.com. The Bay Area Reporter wants letters sent straight to news@ebar.com. You can reach out to Capital Weekly with inquiries at letters@capitalweekly.net. The Orange County Register takes letters at ocregister.com. We've even got the Iowa City Press-Citizen on here, taking both letters and guest editorials at opinion@presscitizen.com. This matrix right here, this is your absolute primary target list to start getting the word out. Let's move to and see how this all builds together in Section 5, Practical Steps for Action, your playbook. Okay, we've covered the what, the why, the how, and the where. Now here is your 2-pronged attack plan to launch this grassroots effort today. Step 1. Find and start with the newspaper nearest to your local community. Step 2, send one version of your pitch as a short, punchy 150-word letter to the editor. Step 3, send a second, longer version as a dedicated op-ed pitch. And Step 4, when you pitch that op-ed, make absolutely sure to emphasize your specific community experience and your real-world work with senior education. Doing this dual approach maximizes your footprint and really increases your chances of getting your community talking about AI safety. So, you now have the formatting rules, you understand the strategic difference between an LTE and an op-ed, and you have a verified list of exact email addresses for legacy media outlets. The super AI mafia relies entirely on silence and ignorance to exploit older adults. But we can break that silence by utilizing the sheer power of the printing press. You've got the playbook now. So the only question left for you is this: which local editor will you email today?
my analogy is that people are worried about AI and does it sound robotic, but they're missing the forest fire for the trees. There's a forest fire of senior AI crime, and that's what we need to be tackling. And we want to flood the zone. We want to flood the forest fire with massive outreach to media, influencing them to cover more stories so that we can keep more seniors safe. So that's the wrap on the meeting. I like your overall comments. And again, we'll start with Ron, my loyal right hand co host, Ron Horey, your comments.
Thank you, Mike. Well, it's a lot of information to take in, but I think it's very significant and timely given the world that we live in. So, thanks for all the work you do.
All right, Michael.
I'm going to second Ron's opinions. You are doing a spectacular job in bringing this to light. And today, with AI, the way it's moving and the way you brought in legacy media, and it's telling them exactly step by step how to accomplish an op-ed, not everything else like that, and what to do. I think it's very helpful, and I think it's surely needed.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, when my dad used to teach music theory at the university, he used to say, when instruments started to be used in the church, did people stop singing? And of course, the answer is no. And the point is that we don't get rid of legacy kinds of mechanisms just because there's something new on the horizon. So, love your focus on legacy media as well as the new media. So, people don't panic, get educated, and stay close to Mike Hayes and what he's doing because he'll keep you safe.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Thanks for being here, guys. You've become great friends over the years, and I really appreciate you being here. So let's keep it moving forward and keep the ball rolling. So thank you for my friends, Ron Horey, Michael Foreman, Greg Sanders. I'm Mike Hughes Hayes, and this has been the Senior AI Podcast. For good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Greg. Thanks,
Thanks,
Michael.
Mike. Nice to meet you guys.
Bye, guys.